evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, my wife Leah, for preparing the drinks. Thank you all for joining and coming. I've prepared this evening our agenda, what we want to cover. And what we're going to do is look at personality for the first half of the session, look at it from the point of view of Jewish spiritual teachings, and then we're going to do practical exercising of graphing our personality, graphing our children's personality, graphing our parents' personality, and comparing. So those of you who are a little bit worried about those outcomes, at that point you may leave, that's perfectly okay. Isn't it amazing that we, as I say, the average age in the room is about 30. We've lived about 30 years of life and probably not asked ourselves the question, what is our individual personality all about? We have some general attributes, we have some words that we'd like to use, but really some really deep analysis doesn't take place because we leave that to professionals called psychologists, as if they understand. And therefore, we're going to become psychologists this evening in a Jewish sense. Could someone please help me with the question, what is personality? Yes.
Are you talking about personality or individual?
I'm talking about personality. That's why the topic's personality. It's a mask, okay? In other words, there's no such thing as personality. It's only some illusion we put on according to the gentleman there. Next, please. It's a quality. Very qualities inside, like cells and organs and... Let's get closer, yes. Gentleman with the beard, so I like you. Go ahead.
I think that it's the nature of how one responds to their environment and responds to people around them.
So personality isn't something about us, it's about our response. How we engage. So it's not something, it's a dynamic of response then, but not us, okay? An attitude to life. So it's a relational aspect, nothing to do with ourselves per se. It's got to have to do with something outside. So that if you were Adam, first person, and there wasn't any Eden, and you were alone, we wouldn't have personality. Okay. Yes. It's a behavior. So the way we think might not be personality, the way we speak might not be personality, it's the way we behave.
That includes thinking as well.
Oh, that includes thinking. Speaking as well? Hedges or bets. Good. 1, 2. Persona. The essence of the person. So that's very good. You've played with the name personality and told me very little about it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Ego. So ego is something about me, and therefore if I practice humility and don't have ego, I have no personality. Try one more. It's how we express ourselves. Diction, pronunciation, language. I'm sure that's the case, yes. Excuse my sarcasm, or is it cynicism? I think you're probably all right, but would you agree that it's very hazy at this stage? Okay. And Jewish spirituality is not hazy. It's very exact. It's very empirical. So let me provide you soon with a model. But before we do, let's add some of the features that some of us listened to and appreciated last week in the manifest session. How do genes relate to personality? They're linked. Good. Otherwise, I probably would not have asked the question. Genes?
Hi. It's like everybody, I'm looking in the scientific point of view, right? That everybody has different personality, and the genes play a very important role in how every human being or a child when he was born.
Okay, so you're telling me genes are important. I'll let the genes know, because that's very important for them to know too. How do genes play a role in personality? We inherit the genes, and therefore, are we our parents? So how does personality differ then?
It's again, the two words, it's an inherited part of it, and part of it is influenced by the surrounding.
Right, so genes play a role with personality. One more?
I'll answer the question with a question.
Of course, you're Jewish.
Exactly.
What is the Jewish word for personality?
Isn't one. It's such a vague English word drawn from the Latin for correctly the word mask that, of course, we wouldn't be so vague as that. You still want to go with genes. Two more for genes, yes?
I think we have to look at genes in terms of the genetics, in terms of the genes and the epigenetics. So I think the genes themselves probably provide the nature element, and the epigenetics probably provide the nurture.
Right, so we would then have to go into nature and nurture and understand those, but fine. But you're saying genes play a role. Last one.
I don't think it has to do something with the physical body.
Nothing to do with the physical body. Do you mean personality or genes? Personality, okay. So we've looked at genes a fraction. Probably not terribly satisfactorily, but at least piqued our interest. Culture and environment, how do they relate to personality? They do. I see a lot of nodding of the heads. They influence personality. How? How? Sorry? Yes, but how do they influence this nebulous thing called personality? How does culture or environment influence personality?
If you're around a certain type of person and they project, like a parent projects a certain behaviour, a child can learn to...
So we're very spongy. We absorb. So we're saying that the surround causes us to absorb it. Just out of interest, can we resist it? In the back.
So, sometimes we, as children, choose to respond by being the exact opposite of what they're showing. So we choose our response to our environment.
Fine. So do we choose, or does it become habitual, or is it non-conscious? Okay, so all these are questions which we're not going to deal with tonight. But I wanted you just to remember some of the things that the experts said last week, yes?
Google gives me two words for personality.
Professor Google gives us a definition of personality, and Professor Google is a rabbi also. Go ahead, yes.
So there's Yeshus, which is more like ego, and there's Atzmus, which is completely different from...
Okay, so is that the Professor Google? He's obviously a student of Hasidic teachings of Kabbalah. Excellent. All right, let's pause there and ask the question, does personality relate exclusively with the body and the body parts? Now a deeper question. I've got that and I've got that. That's what I'm witnessing. Let's take some of those. Yes, anybody. Does it relate exclusively with the body and the body parts? Let's get it from a no. Anyone want to volunteer a no answer? You're good at moving your head for chiropractics, but yes?
There is a spiritual aspect of our being.
I want to know if it relates to the body and the body parts. It relates to the brain. Personality is the brain. So you're saying that the way your brain is the way your personality is? You think it does? I think it's a reasonable proposition. Does it relate to the heart? Yes. Does it relate to the spleen? To the liver? It's getting a bit dicey. Okay. Here's the first proposition I'm making tonight. The body is the physiological vehicle that expresses the energy that courses through it. The body is machinery. Through that machinery flows the essence of who you are. We call the essence of who you are colloquially neshama, loosely translated as soul. Pragmatically, you can translate it as energy. Spiritual energy is a metaphor. But the body doesn't contain your essence, who you are. However, the shape of your body, and I use that word loosely, meaning genetic makeup, your brain structure, the way that your blood flows, affects the way that your essence manifests itself. So that if you have a blue glass vase with clear water in it, the clear water will appear to the outsider to be blue. And if you have a red glass vase, the water will appear to be red. Therefore, if you have type A body, the energy flowing through it will take on an appearance of type A. If you have type X or Y, these are made up things, they're no real ones. In other words, your body does affect the way that your essential personality reveals itself. Personality is a very inchoate English come Latin word that really describes the essence of your soul. And therefore you are the nature of your soul. However, the way it appears in the real world, which is through your thinking processes, speaking processes, and behaving processes, is also affected by the kind of body that you inherited. Someone said inherited, including genes. In our Jewish spiritual teachings, the body nature, not the soul nature, is derived from the parents. The soul nature is derived from the Creator. Your soul nature never changes. It's been around many times, reincarnated many times, in a different body, with different parents, in a different culture, and therefore the way that the same essence of your soul manifests in this lifetime is not the way that it manifested in your last lifetime or your next one. In summation, you have two variables. One variable being the permanent essence of your soul, and the second variable which is not like any other soul in existence. That's why you do have a different personality. And that has got a multiplier effect through the body. And your body is not identical to any other body in existence or ever was. And that's why you're different. In common English parlance, we loosely say you have a personality. But that, in Jewish teachings, is just a summary word that summarizes those two variables, which in their own right are complex variables themselves. Any questions? In the back and in the middle. Yes.
So, with what you just said, you didn't allow any scope or role for the environment.
No, I thought I said it a few times. I said that culture and environment and your genes and any body aspects or things that affect your body, which includes culture and environment, because it changes the way that your brain is shaped, neuroplasticity. The way that you continue thinking shapes the brain's pathways. The way you continue thinking is an echo of the cultural and environmental mode in which you live in. All those things, including what you're saying. But they are not the essence of your being, which is your soul.
How does soul relate to humour, sense of humour? Because I think humour is a very big part of personality.
Humour as in the exposition of humour, or the reading of humour, or one's nature to humour. Remember that once upon a time in former ancient medical teachings, humour meant something much closer to what we're talking about. That's why I want to know where you're going with the word humour. And why humour? Why not any aspect of human emotional activity? Yeah, I understand. But why just humour? Why not any other aspect of our characteristics?
I think it's a big part of a personality being serious or having a sense of humour.
Yeah, but what about serious people? They're invalid? They're lacking something? I'm just curious why you chose that one, that's all.
Some people are all like serious.
Yeah.
And some people quite often.
In other words, they have a different personality. That's what we're saying.
Excuse me.
Just one moment after this gentleman, then you.
Can I just check with you, when you say that the soul is the same soul and it's moving around, which is a wonderful thing, where does that knowledge come from?
Oh, where does any knowledge come from? You have either knowledge based on your own experience or seeing or the use of the five senses, or you believe someone who says something. They're the only two sources of knowledge. Our knowledge comes from the Torah.
So just to clarify, the fact that our soul is reborn, it's the same soul, where does that...
It's an axiomatic proposition in the Torah.
Okay. I thought so.
Yes.
Divine soul?
Not yet. I don't think I ever can. At one level, we can define it as I said, loosely, the analogous notion of an energy that flows through. Another way of defining it is the spiritual umbilical cord that connects it to Hashem. Another way of defining it is the level of consciousness that a person possesses. There are many, many ways. 1, 2.
Can you point me where it is in the Bible about reincarnation?
Certainly, see me afterwards and I'll point to it. Rashi comments. Yeah, okay.
I have IVF twins and they are totally different.
Therefore, what are we saying? They have different personalities. Yes. Because they have two different souls, even though they're IVF twins. And then others who are identical twins have very similar soul essences, but still different. Okay. Now, let's look at something in between body, which is very tangible, brain, heart, liver, and something as intangible as soul, and look in between and look at words like mind and emotion. Mind is not body. Emotion is not body. Mind is not soul. Emotion is not soul. Mind is your experience of the way the soul flows through machinery called brain. When the energy flows through machinery called brain, the human experience of that is mind, which subtexts into aspects of mind, more manifest aspects that become more body-like, thought and speech, and resultant behavior. But let's stay with mind. So the English word mind, the Hebrew sechel, describes a mental experience of the neshama flowing through the machinery of the brain. Brain, machinery. Soul, energy. Our appreciation of it, mind. That's the way you and I recognize it. Emotion, the way that the same energy, neshama, flows through another part of the body called heart. And I don't mean metaphorically, because you might say that's only a heart as metaphor. No, I mean in realistically. And tonight I can't explain how that takes place, only for lack of time. But what we're saying here is that mind and emotion are intermediary factors that relate to our awareness and consciousness of ourselves and the world. They probably won't play a significant role tonight, although they play very significant roles in counselling practices. Any questions there? Can you see how we're developing a different kind of vocabulary? We're developing a different model as to the nature of a human being. A lot of people become a little bit bewildered by this because it's not a Western model, nor are many Eastern models some of you might have encountered similar to the Western model. But the Jewish spiritual model is not a Western model. The most contemporary Western models begin with people like Freud and Maslow and others like that. If you look at the more classics in Roman and Greek times, they're again very, very different, although interestingly closer to the Jewish model. Now I'm coming to the subject matter of our subject. The 4 aspects of personality, where we use these as general templates for who we are. They are fire, air, earth, and water. And although these seem very basic and therefore seemingly antiquated, the truth of the matter is it's quite a sophisticated notion. It's just that the external symbol, fire and air, earth and water, seems to be so basic. How it could possibly relate to something as intangible as personality? I'm not going to go through it in detail because a lot of it is intuited by you. What would a fire personality type look like, express like? Throw me some words. Aggressive. Fiery. Argumentative. Loud. Passive aggressive. Hearty. Vibrant. Extrovert, did you say? Red face, hot it up. See, I don't have to give this talk, you know it. Of course that's what we mean by a fiery personality. That's what we mean by fire. Good, all good, all good. Hey, you haven't heard the rest of the lecture, so wait. Earth. What does an earth personality look like or express like? Grounded. Keep going. Heavy. Solid. Reliable. Again? Down to earth, as we said before. Calm, quiet, and lazy. despondent, depressed. Okay. What would an air personality look like? Sorry? Thinker, air, thinker. Flirty, floaty, probably both. Creative, adventurous. In other words, all these things relate to movement. Changeable, okay. All right, free spirit. A difficult one, water. Emotional. Sense, what? Sensible or? Sensual. What undercurrent? Sensing undercurrents. Sensitive, in other words. Huh? Flexible. Okay. Now, a basic question. In each of those, some of you chose positive aspects and some of you chose negative aspects. For example, fire could be anger. Fire could be passion. Earth can be reliable. Earth can be depressive. Each one of these has the possibilities of positive and negative expressions. And the reason for that is because we all possess the potential of positivity and negativity, the duality of our higher self and lower self, usually called nefesh elokit and nefesh behamit. Every moment we have a choice to direct our personality positively or negatively in the world. Most often we don't exercise that choice because of habit or laziness. But the aim of the game is to be very mindful, very aware, very conscious, and exercise choice so that our personality elements can express positively rather than negatively. That will be the art of mastery in Jewish teachings.
Are these primal elements, are they connected with the astrological signs?
Say that first part again.
The primary elements, fire, water, earth, and air, are they connected with the astrological signs of life?
Everything can be connected with the astrological signs, but let me give you just a little warning. In the Talmud of Shabbos, page 112, first side of the folio, it says there that even in its day, we're talking about 300 to 400 CE, already by then there were no longer any accurate, genuine astrologists. So firstly, although astrology, which I'll say in a moment, was an art, do not consult someone who has a shingle outside their home saying astrologer in residence. Guaranteed to be inaccurate for all sorts of reasons. The fact that everything affects everything, that the heavenly bodies affect us. Even Rambam, Maimonides, says that. But the relationship of how it affects us, that is known only to the very few ancients. It's irrelevant to us. So we're talking about becoming masterful in our own right by understanding the fire, air, earth, and water template.
Yeah, so just you mentioned in terms of positive and negative, and
Yes.
I just want to have some clarification there because
Yes.
it can be quite subjective, positive and negative in terms
Yes.
in terms of the Jewish model.
Yes.
What is the measure of a positive movement of that personality affecting the surroundings?
I can give you general principles derived from the Torah, but if you want to be exact, you have to go specifically to the instances of the Torah. But generally speaking, those things that connect people through love are positive. Those things that disconnect people through fear and negative. Okay? That's general. Ahava and yirah, the dynamic of love and fear, which underlies all our emotions in Jewish teachings. Everything that is caused by fear tends to disconnect because you move away physically, move away emotionally, move away subliminally. And anything which is love-based tends toward, to approach, to become one with, whether that be people, whether that be knowledge, or anything whatsoever. So anger disconnects. Anger is underlain by fear. Anger is an attempt to assuage fear by dominating and controlling the environment. Raising your voice, putting on a large posture, causes the other person to cower into submission so that you can control that person. That's fear. That spoils the relationship or distances the relationship ultimately. Whereas love does the opposite. Okay? So we've looked a little bit at the nature of each of these four, probably sufficiently for us to be able to carry out some practical exercises, which we're going to do in a moment. Let me give you a more exact sense of fire, air, earth and water, beyond the generalities which many of you correctly proposed. So fire means quantum of emotion. The degree that the emotion flows. With some people, the emotion flows much more freely, more strongly, and with others, the emotion flows far more slowly and coolly as such. So you can be high in fire or low in fire. There's no right or wrong unless they are used wrongly in terms of distancing or bringing together, as we said before. Then you have air. Air tends to speak about communication in our teachings. A person who has high air personality content is verbose. They talk more. They express better. They're more in terms of the use of the voice in interpersonal relations. That can be positive and negative. You can gossip. You can tell tales. You can besmirch. You can be taken to court for that as well. Or you can endear. You can encourage, and onwards and onwards. Earth we've already mentioned. Earth means something which is settled. Fire rises, emotions rise. Earth settles, dust settles. So a person who has a more settled nature, a person who doesn't enjoy much movement. Their vacation is in their lounge room in front of the TV, not to fly off to the Arctic or anything like that. Both are right. There's no right or wrong. Okay? And we all know that about people of each kind of nature as such. Water is a difficult one. I heard what you said. Now I'm going to give you the Jewish spiritual teaching on water. Water relates to enjoyment. But enjoyment itself is a double-edged sword. You can enjoy because you like to experience, titillate, feel alive, move your nature, enjoy the inner movement. Or you can have more profound enjoyment of connectedness, oneness, meditation, whatever might be the case. Now, the latter one is not problematic. But if you enjoy at someone else's expense, can I take a horrific example? The perversity of torture. Some people enjoy to torture cats. Horrible as it is, it's a very well-known phenomenon. They enjoy it. Right. But that is also enjoyment. From their subjective point of view, it's enjoyment. So enjoyment can have higher order presentation or very low order presentation and everything in between. Okay, so just be aware of that. What kind of a person you are in terms of the level of enjoyment. Enjoyment can be egocentric. I want to enjoy myself, or it can be very other-centered. I want to enjoy my children's happiness. You've got the full range of self-centeredness and other-centeredness. Okay? So with all that by way of introduction, we're going to move in a moment to an exercise. But any last-minute questions? Yes, Chaim.
Wouldn't these categories of fire, air and water be, they wouldn't be surely so clearly defined. Would all be sort of a mixture of many of them together. Maybe some are more prominent than others. But
Right, so here was going to be my final statement. Glad you raised it. You have all four, but one is dominant, the other is subdominant, the third one is sub-subdominant, and the fourth one is sub-sub-subdominant. We all have fire, air, earth, and water. That makes up our total personality. That's the way that the neshama expresses through the body. And because of that, you have to understand which one is dominant, which one is subdominant, sub-sub, and sub-sub-sub, to get a good sense of who you are. And that's what we're going to do a graphing exercise about. Yes, John.
If these elements of our personality are there, and they are based on, if they're influenced by the circumstances, the situation, as we people talk about, we put masks on in different situations, like just a space we can put in different masks on. Then do we just select some examples of situations?
No. The masks we put on are false. Don't want to talk about those. You choose to put on a mask. You choose to pretend you're happy when you're sad, etc., etc. I was going to say that's your business. It's not. It's everyone's business. But still, no. I'm talking about your true self. You are who you are essentially. We are not essentially a mask. We may put on a mask strategically or fearfully or whatever might be the reason, but here we're going to talk about your inner truth.
Sorry, quick question. You may have covered this, but does your personality change as you get older?
Yes.
Good question. What do you think?
Yes.
And I'm going to say no. You are who you are who you are, but your essence sometimes needs to be discovered. And you spend a lifetime being truer to your essence. And therefore you tame your body in order that your truer self is able to present itself. And hopefully, as time goes on, the truer self presents itself. So for example, some people may, as a consequence of formative childhood circumstances, grow up angry. And we can explain it by life circumstances as a child. That's not their true self, because anger is a choice. There's no such thing as an angry soul. Life, environment, culture, parenthood can create the anger response mechanism, but therapy, wise teachings, practice can allow a person to begin to respond to challenge in much more positive manners. And that's closer to their truer self. So in a way, when we all said yes, what we're saying is we really can change in life. Yes. But we're getting truer and truer to ourselves. or further and further away, depending on our life circumstances. Yes?
Does that mean our elements can change? We can sort of, or not?
Probably not, but what we can do is balance them much better. So if we have a fire-dominant personality, you don't want to stifle that. What you want to do is direct it positively. It's an asset. It's your strength. But you have to present it in a way which makes the world a better place, your relationships more positive, and you feel more fulfilled. You nearly bought a house with that hand half up.
I don't know, the idea that came to me, I thought, when you said fire, I thought of flame. It's on a very, it's big. When you say flame, you have spiritual, it's on a very different level.
So allow yourself in this exercise to leave it at such a level, intuitive level. That's fine.
The picture that came to me when I thought of like the tree of, if we speak of Judaism, the tree of life, the fruits, these are the flames.
Okay, that's perhaps taking it a fraction away from the core that we want tonight, but that's okay. That's good. All right, this is what we're going to do. You have been provided with graph paper. Have a look at the graph that I've given you a picture of just on my notes as a sample. And I've plotted an imaginary individual. No, it's not me. It's not anyone I know. So you can see that what I've done is I've done a y-axis, fire, air, earth and water, and an x-axis, 0, 1 to 10, where 10 is high and 0 is non-existence or negligible. This particular individual tends towards having two dominant personality characteristics, fire and water. As you can see, the red and the blue tend to be in the upper regions. That means they're highly emotional and they also want to enjoy life. Their expression, the way that they communicate, is average, and they're not terribly regular, settled, grounded, etc. And therefore you end up with this kind of a graph, which I've joined the tops of so you get a shape. What I'd like you to do is, over the next several minutes, take the graph paper, but leave enough space on your graph paper for 3 or 4 graphs. So draw a graph axis Y and X on the graph paper. Not too big so you don't dominate the page. I said you want to have space for 3 or 4. Number them 0 to 10, and then fire, earth and water, and start plotting yourself. Yes?
What if, like, certain people bring out a personality more so than others, like a spouse or a parent or somebody that you're close with? Like, normally you're a certain way, but like your spouse or your parent makes you more. Is that, it's like with anger, or would you say that therefore that is high among you? You can't blame the other person. Like, so where...
Okay, good question. No, I want you to plot you according to you. Okay? Not environmentally. Spend a few moments, don't rush. It's a very, very important initial exercise. And there's no right or wrong, so, you know, you don't have to hide your paper, that's fine.